Hi, it's the BAFTA-nominated overview show. We're going to overview the ass off Liverpool's coming month because there's a lot of games to go through. This is the business end of what's becoming a very exciting season, isn't it, Neil?
Are you excited?
I've actually talked myself into excitement.
Of course, I like it. I like it. I feel like you take the temperature of the wider fan base in so many ways.
I bounced out of the City Ground on Sunday afternoon, and I thought, do you know what? It's on. Not sure what's on, but it feels like it's on. Ian, Salmon, Beth, Lindop. Do you know what's also on and ever present in our lives? Thankfully, is NordVPN, Neil. Just remind me. So, do you like extra internet security and peace of mind?
Yes, definitely.
I do. Beth, do you like having the ability to change your virtual location with the click of a button?
I love it.
I've asked you before, so I know you love it.
Yeah.
E, do you like having the 30-day money-back guarantee?
That's the bit I like most.
Well, you need to sign up for NordVPN, and you can do so at nordvpn.com/TAW. Is there anything more that you think we should know about NordVPN, Neil?
I think that
you've covered the bases.
I think you've more than covered the bases there. I think it's a special offer for Anfield Wrap listeners. They should take advantage of it if they have the opportunity to do so. They should also tell their friends. Their friends don't even have to like the Anfield Wrap, support Liverpool or like football, but their friends could also take advantage of
I'm imagining the pub scene as they tell their friends.
Exactly, it'd be huge.
Lovely.
Loads and loads of chatting about it. So I think that
you're around, mate.
By the way. Let me save you a few quid at the same time.
You're true, mate.
Yeah.
Packet of crisps as well.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Salt and vinegar.
Yeah.
So across the board. So that's your NordVPN, nordvpn.com/TAW, and take advantage of all the offers.
I can say that my son uses it, swears blind by it, and did not take advantage of the offer because not listening to the Anfield Wrap being a blue and not being interested in my idea about football at all, he didn't know it existed. So he paid full whack and still loves it.
There we go.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well,
the damage Everton does to families and bank accounts.
Yeah.
It's worth bearing in mind. But anyway, gloss over it, Rob. Come on.
They made me watch them last night for 60 or 75 minutes until they conceded.
It was an atrocious game of football.
God, it was appallingly bad.
The most encouraging thing ahead of this show was they're not very good. Man United. This is what's brilliant about being in a race for a rubbish place like fourth. Is the teams who are doing it are basically a bit crap, and you can just about kid yourself that you're the best of the crap. I mean, there you go. Enjoy the Reds. Well, in all seriousness, Beth, start with you. Liverpool, since the last show we did, where we discussed Man City home, Sunderland away, Brighton in the Cup, and Forest away. We'll gloss over the fact that we also discussed West Ham because we can do that again. Well, I don't know. Where Liverpool were going to finish was really up for grabs. I mean, it was anywhere from 4th to 9th or something like that. It feels like with Brentford falling back from the pack, that we're in a straight shootout, really, between Liverpool, Villa, Man U, Chelsea, for how many Champions League places? 3 champions, for 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Yeah.
And there's the chance that 6th comes into play, which would sort of be nice for all concerned, if Villa win the Europa Cup. Is that about right? Is our season looking a lot simpler now in the league terms?
Yeah, I think so. I think, after that Manchester City game, there was a lot of doom and gloom, and understandably, because it was obviously really frustrating to lose that game in the manner that Liverpool did. But I think, the last 2 results in the league, the Sunderland game and Forest, 2 really tricky aways, and the sort of games that I think, earlier in the season, and I mean, not even earlier in the season, you would just say in general that Liverpool would struggle with. So the fact that they've come away with 2 wins from those performances, I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised. I didn't think that they would win both of them. Obviously, the performance at Forest left a lot to be desired, particularly in the first half, but I think they've put themselves in a good position now, Liverpool, particularly when you consider they play West Ham at home at the weekend. They then go away to Wolves, which won't be an easy game. Arsenal obviously learnt that the hard way. But again, opponents that they should be beaten. Caveat on that, because we know that they've not always beaten the opponents that they should this season. But I think Liverpool now, you can look at it and make a real compelling case that they will get a Champions League spot, which I think felt really in doubt after that City game, purely just because of the way that Chelsea and Manchester United were going, and Liverpool had 2 tough aways. So, yeah, I feel a little bit more positive about them getting Champions League than I did a couple of weeks ago.
It's 5 wins out of 6 games in all comps, I think, at the moment. We beat Qarabağ, Newcastle before losing to City, and have since won 3 on the bounce. Sunderland, Brighton in the Cup, and Forest E. So what did I just say that was? That's 5 out of 6. Yeah, so we won those 5. And there's some toughies in there. Do you think is it fair? I mean, have Liverpool turned the proverbial corner? It's that simple.
I genuinely don't know. City, I was furious. The last time we did this, I predicted we'd beat City. I predicted we were going for straight wins that was way through. I was so hopeful. I looked and thought, we can get City at the moment. They're not convincing at the moment. We can really get them. They've been on a little bit of a rocky patch. And the manner of giving away that lead and losing as badly as we did, and I still swear blind, we lost 3-1. I don't give a shit what PGM or Wells say. We lost 3-1 in that game. And it was appalling. Then Sunderland was a great away performance. It was a proper away performance. The Brighton game was excellent. And then the Forest game...
We won.
We won, yeah, we won, but we played well. And then the Forest game, halfway through the first half, I wanted the manager sacked. And I thought halfway through the first half, there was every possibility this might be the game that lost him his job, because we looked so devoid of anything whatsoever. But then by the 99th minute, I'm like, this is the best thing that's ever happened. We're obviously going to be great from now on. I don't know whether we've turned the corner. I still don't know which Liverpool we are. I've seen, in the last 4 games, I've seen a capable Liverpool, a good Liverpool, and a poor, utterly one of the worst performances in the game of football I've ever seen in my life, Liverpool, in that first 45 minutes. But also, for the first 40 minutes of the City's second half, we were fantastic. So we can see what we can do.
I feel we've sort of seen, I'm thinking about it now, Neil, sort of encapsulations of all the Liverpool sides I think I've ever watched in the last 6 games. I felt the Forest game, even though it was clearly shit, I was quite content that we'd probably win it. And I'm not normally like, simply for the fact that it just I had all the Houllier Benitez vibes. I thought, those 3 lads in front of Alisson are throwing themselves at everything today. Konate, Van Dijk and Gravenberch were putting their body on the line throughout that first half. And I thought, I've seen how this works. Eventually the other team gets very, very frustrated. And if you've got some quality up there, you can win it. So I felt it echoed that. I felt when the manner of winning at Sunderland and suddenly becoming a set-piece team and able to find that way home was... Okay, that's another iteration of Liverpool. I think it's Brighton, we were a bit more the full throttle team we would like to be. It's, as Ian said, it's what our correct face is, I don't know, but at least we're showing there are different facets to us at this stage, which we need.
They show a lot of resilience against Forest.
Yes.
I think the 2 centre-backs in particular showed tons of resilience first half. I think the midfielders in front, who I want to be clear, are dreadful at football. Throw themselves at everything.
Curtis and McAllister are poor in the first half.
They're really poor, but McAllister and Curtis and Gravenberch throw them, and Szoboszlai, none of them can pass, none of them can trap, but what they do is block.
Yeah.
And when Liverpool fall back in on themselves because of the ineptitude, they block and they get in front of things and they are robust. You think about how easily in the reverse fixture we got beat 3-0 by Forest.
Yeah.
They just rolled us and they didn't have to work for any of the goals. We just gave them the goals and it went from there. What we do against Forest is we say if you're going to score, you're going to have to do well. You're on top, you're dominant, you're much the better side, we're a mess. But you're going to have to really work for every goal. Any goal, and they couldn't do it. I think it's worth pointing out that Forest, I think, were atrociously toothless, and I think that practically every player who plays for Forest is in the wrong line. I think that they're using lads as wide forwards who are at best midfielders in a 4-4-2. I think that Gibbs White is a hard running 8. He's not a 10. The centre forward who plays as number 9 is not a number 9. He's a number 10, and that helped Liverpool massively because they didn't have players. I think Elliot Anderson is obviously a very good player, but he is playing next to a destroyer and also playing as a destroyer. So it's quite a straightforward situation. He ought to have been a creative fulcrum and he wasn't. Ultimately, I actually think it's a bit of a damning performance for Elliot Anderson, which I know is not fashionable. But I was just sort of left a little bit like, well, if you've got Sangare doing all this and these lads can't pass to each other, what are you offering? That's going to break Liverpool down. Are you offering late runs? Are you offering a moment of creativity? And he offered, whilst being very involved in the play and in inverted commas playing well, he didn't offer a great deal. I think Liverpool end up in this situation where, but they are atrocious first half, but what they were resolute. And I think that resolute is a good description of Liverpool in all of these games apart from the last 10 minutes against City. They were resolute. And second half, again, I think earlier in the season, Leeds is a great example of it. a little bit of adversity, everyone leads away and everyone loses their minds. They get the adversity of the disallowed goal, and what Liverpool don't do is go, oh God, it's not our day, we're going to concede a corner, here we go. Instead, Liverpool still have this feeling of, we can make this happen. I think that shows an improvement, mental improvement. They don't go, we've been so bad first half, we must be punished second, and talk themselves into it. Instead, they go, clean slate, new half, let's start, and let's just try our best.
Even against City, they do, after the worst happens and they go 2-1 down, they do try and fight back at that. I mean, there's the McAllister chance, there's the Siege.
Yeah, but they're fucking pathetic at 1-1.
Oh, they're bad. They're not good.
No, they're really bad at 1-1. I'm not the adversity there's 1-1. They're really bad at 1-1.
Yeah,
and then the worst happened then, so of course you'd have a go.
Yeah.
But, they're really bad at 1-1 against City. But that is the only exception. I think the rest of those games that you're talking about. And I think it goes, I think you can sort of draw a line back to post-Leeds away. I think Liverpool have shown a greater level of robust mental fortitude since then, even if the football hasn't been great.
Bournemouth,
maybe Bournemouth's a fair criticism.
Fulham's unlucky, but yeah.
Bournemouth's a fair criticism. Fulham is just unlucky.
Yeah, it's just unlucky.
But Bournemouth is a fair criticism. But anyway, I think it is. I think that is the overriding positive, and I think that we can push on from there. We need these games not to be close. We can't play like that again, by the way, for 45 minutes, because if we do, we will be punished, because we'll come up against a better side. We've got two good attackers, and then we'll be in real bother. But I think that there are a couple of positives even in amongst that rubbish.
I mean, there's some specific positives over the last phase, Beth. On my list, I've got, I think Szoboszlai continues to push on and has now added being a regular free kick scorer to his arsenal. Let's just digress and talk about him for a minute. I was chatting to Steve Graves. I went to the match with yesterday about him in the car on the way back, and very early on in his Liverpool career, people were very quick to throw the Gerrard comparison at him. And as time went by, even as his game got better, it seemed spurious. It seemed like he's a really good midfielder, but he ain't that midfielder. Not, he's one of the greatest Liverpool midfielder of all time. But he's on a trajectory and putting forward increasingly a body of work where he goes, these don't look that crazy by comparison. Of course, a lot more has to happen. You can sort of see how it could happen if he wants to make his career at Liverpool, wants to become a Liverpool captain. He's beginning to show that he has it all.
Yeah, and I think he's the sort of player and character who relishes being the main man. I remember I was writing a piece about him last season when he was in a really good patch of form around when they played City away, and there's that moment at the end of that game where he just collapses on the pitch because he's absolutely knackered, and he got a goal and an assist in that game. And I was speaking to a few people back in Hungary, and they were basically just saying, like, it's hard to even explain how much of a superstar he is over there. It's like, maybe the equivalent of what Mo Salah is like in the Arab world. I mean, he had a McDonald's meal named after him in the summer of the Euros. He was,
Szoboszlai
did, yeah. Which I can't imagine he eats too many McDonald's, but he was.
I want to know what it's called.
Yeah,
now.
I think it's called the Dommy meal.
The Dommy meal.
Yeah. So
Did you get a little toy Dom?
I'm not sure, but if you
because that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be great.
Beth's chosen the wrong thing to bring up as
an
extra
I am now
detail.
very interested in this. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
So,
completely sideways.
Sorry, Beth.
But I think that illustrates just the level of sort of superstardom that he has back home, and I think now we're starting to see that he doesn't just want that on an international level. He wants it for his club as well, and there's obviously been a lot of links to Real Madrid, and listen, I think that you could make a compelling case for him maybe going there at some point in his career. But I also do think there is a world where he would quite like to be the main man for Liverpool, and he could do that more for Liverpool than he could for Real Madrid, I think. So yeah, I think and another thing this season that's been really, really notable is the first 2 years of his Liverpool career, he barely spoke to the media unless he was contractually obliged to do so. Whereas this season, in the mix zone, there was actually one point a few weeks ago where he wanted to come and speak to the media. Now, part of that was to make a point about his contract, but also just the fact that that willingness to take responsibility and stuff, I think off the pitch shows that again he's sort of relishing having more of a starring role in the team, and I think that's no bad thing for Liverpool. And we were asked at work the other day to nominate our player of the season contenders, because there isn't, I guess, a natural front runner as there was last season with Mo Salah. And listen, I think Declan Rice will probably win it if Arsenal win the league, which I think they still will. And I think he would deserve to win it. But I think in terms of just pure individual excellence, I don't think there've been many better players in the league than Szoboszlai this season. In terms of, without him, I think Liverpool would be in a really, really sticky situation. So yeah, credit.
Do you know what occurred to me watching him, particularly on the pitch, and it has before, but particularly on Sunday, is the number of sprints he gets through. When you're watching, it's almost like you're watching two games. But footballers are doing the things they're doing, maybe jogging a couple of yards to the left, to the right, as plays in this sort of static phase. Normally Szoboszlai's legging it somewhere. He's doing a sprint. I said to Steve yesterday, I said, that poor boy will not be playing football past 27.
I think he will. I think he's brilliantly. I think he's brilliant. I think that's the thing with him. I think he's just so brilliantly conditioned, and his relentlessness is just, he's such a fantastic athlete, which I think is why he's been so good for Liverpool this season. Because my biggest issue with Liverpool, there've been a lot this season, but I think it's just how lethargic they look at times. And
Yes.
we're going to get on to sort of the lack of pace and the lack of goals and stuff, but I think he's one of the few players that you look at and you think he's got a bit of energy, which at times this season Liverpool have just not looked like they've had. So credit to him. He's continues to be excellent, but I'd like to see him in midfield now. I think that the right back thing.
Joke's over.
Yeah, I understand it. Hopefully Frimpong is back in contention to play a part on Saturday, and Gomez is maybe able to play a few more minutes there. But I think out of the two midfielders, I'd rather see Jones at right back and Szoboszlai further forward.
I couldn't agree more. Let's pay tribute to another individual for the last phase. I can't say enough positive about Ibu Konate, and I think it needs to be said. I think he was, although he had his blips, I think he was harshly judged for the period before the run of about, I don't know, 8 games he's been on, where he's been absolutely superb for my money.
I think since returning he's been stunning. I think, as one of the people who did harshly judge him, especially around the Christmas game, especially around the Leeds penalty, what was calling it, when he played the ball at Leeds.
Well, he chops the man down unnecessarily, slides into nothing.
Yeah, so there you go. Completely forgot what happened at Leeds. But the Leeds instance was, I think, the lowest point of his game for the season and possibly his time with us. But I think he's a salient reminder that these lads are human beings. They're young men, they're human beings, and whatever may be going on off the pitch may well be affecting them on the pitch. And he's come back from losing his father, and he's been absolutely incredible. He's playing like the perfect version of himself at the moment.
He is.
And he was at the weekend. I thought he was man of the match by quite some distance at the weekend. The fact that he's putting himself in front of everyone. But he was the one player in the first half who was willing to try and take the ball up the pitch. He was actually trying to dribble forward and take the ball through and actually play incisive balls. So his mentality is absolutely back on point, and his physicality, his game is absolutely where it should be at the moment. I can't speak highly enough of him right now.
Young centre-halves, who knew, get better as they get older because they concentrate, and it can happen halfway through a season. The concentration gets better, and that's what you can see with him.
How old is he now? 26?
Yeah,
possibly,
26,
but
27 in May.
it's a position you keep on improving at to a certain point. Focus on 2 young players in wide areas, Neil. Rio Ngamoa, who's had cameos, and each cameo seems better than the last. He's now pressing his claims for a start somewhere. And I think Milos Kerkez as well, who is, yes, older than Rio Ngamoa, but if you park him, probably the youngest of our first team pool. Milos Kerkez, is that right? He's younger.
He's about regulars.
But people seem to forget that fact. He's been like Konate, he's been a credit to himself and his family.
Yeah, I think it's worth sort of saying, though, Kerkez is brought in for a significant sum and wasn't the team of the year last year. I think people have an expectations that from the start he's able to contribute. I don't think it's unreasonable. I think you can say that you don't like it, but that's just, it's modern football world. If you're going to be bought as a fullback for 45 million, people are going to want to see that. Now, I actually think that Kerkez sort of broadly was okay early in the campaign. I think it's one of the things that's interesting is his best performance this season, Brighton, comes immediately after he doesn't have any involvement in the game against Sunderland. So I think that
freshness.
He comes in with a genuine degree of freshness, so he doesn't even get on against Sunderland when you might have thought the smart play here might be that. It's also worth pointing out as well, the manager actually changes against Forest all 4 players who play in wide areas over the course of the match. So he does both full-backs and both wide players by the end. Again, I've got no problem with that. For me, that's part of what you actually want. It's smart squad management. I'd argue if you have the strength and depth, the other player you change is the number 9. So you do two. No, not about the quality. Just simply in terms of making sure you've got constant freshness and threat. 2 fullbacks, 2 wide men. Your number 9. If you need a goal, that's where you want it to come, and you want the stability of the performance to come through the rest of the heart of the team. That's your ideal way of doing it. I actually think Ekitike does a bit better than his press on Sunday, and I think there's a lot of people who are determined to act as though what was a brilliant save was a terrible miss. I
actually think he was there on the 90th minute where, we've taken him off on 17 every other game. The fact that he was arriving there had the alertness, that's the main takeaway. And gets it on target, because those headers he's been putting wide, he gets it on target.
He puts the ball where he needs to put the ball. The goalie does really well.
It's a great save.
It's better watching it back. In the ground, I thought it was the miss of the century, but watching it back, he actually has to adjust his head a bit more than I thought.
It's like, well, he's heading it back across his body. He's headed at an angle that would be perfect. It would be a great goal. In exactly the same way, no one's talking about the save from Jones.
The Jones,
which is absolutely point blank, and it's Jones standing there hasn't got a clue how it's gone in.
Yeah, it's a really good save. But I think the two younger players, I think Kerkez is continuing to show what he's about, improve, be able to contribute. I think it's helping. I think the structure of the side's helping. I think the fact that there is a greater sort of sense of trust has helped. And I think that one of the jobs if as and when Frimpong comes back in, is Liverpool making sure that they can get both full-backs being able to genuinely contribute in the opposition final third on a regular basis. I think that'll help massively, especially given the issues with the starting wide players. Rio, I think, is a little bit different. I still think it's exceptionally difficult to envisage giving him first 60s of games. I'd probably start him.
Regularly, yes.
I'd probably start him in both games against Wolves on different sides.
Not tempted by West Ham?
No.
Okay.
So I'd start on left side against Wolves on the Tuesday, and I'd start on right side against Wolves on the Friday. That's what I'd probably look to do and go from there. I think that you need to throw the gauntlet down to your senior players and make the point to them that I took you off when we needed a goal with 15 to go. You've got a week between games. There's no excuses. If you crap against West Ham, then you'll be made. And
a 17-year-old made a show of both of you.
You will be publicly substituted again, and we'll be doing the same thing. Thank you very much. So it improves. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's what I'd be
just
doing.
Sit Salah down with the footage of him laughing on the bench and shaking his head, and show him the footage of Rio putting the ball in the.
So there's ways and means, but I think that those 2 players, being senior professionals, one of them I think at times, both of them. Obviously, but Salah does, but Gakpo I think has at times ended up with the armband playing for Holland. So I think that these are senior professionals who should be having a good long think about things.
Yeah.
And going from there, and I think you give them the West Ham opportunity to put things right. So I think that's important.
Well, we'll come on to the fixtures specifically in a minute. Actually, let's go on. Let's start them now, because I think the conversations around team selection will inform what I was going to talk about. How the issue of lack of pace out wide is a recurring theme of this season, and is clearly evident as a problem against Forest, and is sort of resolved by bringing on a lively, pacey Joe Gomez and a lively, pacey Rio Engamoa. Improves this immeasurably, albeit against, I have to caveat, is against tiring defenders. But let's dive into the fixtures. We've got, as we've just said, West Ham at home this weekend, then Wolves the midweek on the Tuesday in the league, followed by the Friday FA Cup game against Wolves. Then we have a Champions League away tie against whom we do not know just right now. Followed, I think it's scheduled for the Sunday Spurs at home after that Champions League game, and then hot on its heels on probably the Wednesday will be the second leg of the Champions League game at Anfield, and we will finish this sequence before the international break with an away game at Brighton.
Is the international break not after the?
It's after Brighton.
Is it?
Definitely,
yes.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey Beth, I know my job.
God, I mean, it's my job, and I thought it was after the Wolves FA Cup game.
Well, it's an interesting programme, that, isn't it? There's no.
Can I go first?
Yeah, go on.
Because I don't think it could be any kinder. Not.
Depends if we get in the Champions League.
No. I don't think it does. I think that if you look at the fixtures before the season starts, when they're all in place, you've moved the Wolves FA Cup game to a Friday when the Champions League game is likely to be Tuesday, the Wednesday. That gives you an extra day's rest. You're back to back in the FA Cup against the same side, albeit both are away from home. So you're in a position there where you are able...
Don't have to watch any new videos.
Well, yeah, and also you're just able to sort of say, well, there's no advantage to anybody. We've both got the same thing. It's coming in both ways. You precede that Wolves Tuesday night when Wolves themselves are not used to playing 2 games in a week, and as it'll turn into here, 3 games in 7 days. And you precede that with a game against West Ham United at home. That can't be any kinder. You then move forward, and at the same time that we're away in the Champions League last 16, Tottenham will be away in the Champions League last 16, and there is a disadvantage to going away in Europe and then going away in the league. And it's Tottenham who've got that disadvantage, not Liverpool.
Yes.
And also Tottenham are a poor side, but park that, it doesn't matter. If they were a good side, it'd still be the case. You've seen sides all the way through the season. There's actually a study on it that you are a significant percentage likely to drop points in the second game if you're away, and that's happened to Tottenham. And then we were always going to have, then you want to have your last 16 second leg at home, so it was always going to be a home game there and then an away game at Brighton. You might not like that it's Saturday 12:30, but we're at home for the game before it, and we've got a Champions League squad. So my point about this is, there's in the same way for Forest, and they were terrible first half. There are no hiding places. There are no excuses. It is unacceptable if Liverpool aren't the best versions of themselves in this run of games. It could not have fallen any kinder before you even get into the level of the opponent. And I think that's less important this season because the sides are so well matched. And we're seeing, the horrendousness around set pieces as per at the Hill Dickinson last night. But I think that there is, this season, I don't think you could ask for a better run, a better set times of fixtures than this one. So this is it. I've no more excuses from Liverpool. They could not ask for 4 better league games with better cups. They've got the advantage in Europe. They're meant to be playing the weaker sides all the way through. And someone might say, well, they might get Atletico, and Atletico will be difficult. I don't give a fuck. It's the last 16 in Europe. It's in Liverpool's favour. So I'm not interested in excuses from anybody.
I think this is a phase of the season where it could, to go back to what I said at the top of the show, get exciting, Beth. 7 games from greatness would be a stretch, but if these 7 games went according to plan, and I'm not just going to just yet pick how many wins I'd like out of those 7, because the answer is 7. Liverpool have a chance to, and we'll look at our rivals' fixtures in just a sec. Liverpool have a chance in this specific phase to really take ownership of 4th and possibly even begin to seriously threaten 3rd place. They have a realistic chance of doing that with fixtures against lesser lights here in West Ham, Wolves, Spurs and Brighton. They have a chance, regardless of what the Champions League draw is, as Neil said, because we're better than all the teams we could face, by a bit of a distance, I would say, on our day certainly. We have a chance to wake up on March the 18th or whatever, or 19th, and find ourselves in the quarterfinal of a European Cup. And we have the chance also to be also at the end of this phase be in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup. Now, to be 3rd stroke 4th, quarterfinals of the European Cup, quarterfinals of the FA Cup, on the back of these 7 very winnable games, would suddenly create a platform for, I think, not the ideal season the Liverpool fans wanted, but certainly something really to get your teeth stuck into.
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of despondency this season, and for good reason. There have been periods of the season where it has been abject and hasn't been good enough. But I think this is a spell now where Liverpool really can sort of take command of their own destiny a little bit and start, like Neil said, I don't think there are any excuses now. I think, the players need to step up. I think, the encouraging thing is a lot of the new players have started to step up in recent weeks, and the likes of Konate, who wasn't his best self in the first half of the season, is now looking every inch like the elite player that we know that he can be. McAllister again is poor at Forest, but I think that resilience, that battling sort of mentality, which hasn't always been there from him this season, is there. And I think I think Sunderland actually has a really good game, McAllister. So I think that there were encouraging signs. My concern is going forward, is the attack. That is my worry. I think I was writing a piece this week about sort of Liverpool winning games late, and there's obviously multitude of reasons for that, but I think one of them generally is that Liverpool aren't scoring as many goals as they usually do, and so the scope to have games won by 60, 70 minutes or have a little bit of a cushion is it's not there, because so it's actually so they've got 42 goals in the Premier League so far this season. The last time they had that few goals at this stage of a season was 2015-16. They've got 22 less goals at this stage of the season as they've had in the last 2 seasons. So it's that for me is a worry.
Yeah.
I think there were points last season where Mo Salah, he was almost a guarantee of a goal. And listen, this isn't me slating Mo Salah. I think he's still contributed this season without being anywhere near his best level. But I think now it's 9 games in the league without a goal for him.
It's his longest stretch.
Which is his longest stretch.
2 in 16 or something like that in the league. I don't know. Or 2 since November.
2 in 17 for Cody Gakpo, and that's your starting wing partnership. That's a worry. That is a worry. Frimpong coming back, I think will help in terms of having a little bit of pace out wide, a lot of pace out wide. But again, I think Slot will probably be reluctant to running him into the ground because of how injury prone he's been. I think having Isak back for a part of the season will be a boost, because I think even though we won't see the best of him until next season, I think Ekitike has had to stay on sometimes in games because there just hasn't been that option. So I think if they can get to this international break and be in a commanding position, then potentially have Alexander Isak coming back as an option, it's a really more positive end to the season than I think we could have envisioned a few months ago. Yeah,
I mean, the ongoing concern, and it's not even an elephant in the room, is that I'm looking at our squad at the moment, and of the outfield options we've got, I'm counting 14 are relatively interchangeable, and you can add on top of those Ngamoa, Chiesa and Nyoni, but they're very much second tier players, although there's a building conversation around Ngamoa. 14 players doesn't give you a huge amount of rotation option. I'm including Frimpong's availability in that list, by the way. I'm not including Isak's. So in this phase, Neil's right to say that the spacing, the type of opponent, and the way the home and away falls is ideal and leaves them for few excuses. But they are going to have to find a way to rotate. I don't care who you are. You can't play 7 games with the same 11, even if you're going to make cute substitutions on 65 every now and again. That Wolves FA Cup game looms large for me as an opportunity for Liverpool to, well, they have to take a risk for the benefit of the wider objectives in the season, which are Champions League qualification and going further in the Champions League itself.
Yeah, but it's a risk of the fact that we could potentially win the FA Cup, and winning the FA Cup would be a good way to save a season that's been.
Wouldn't save it if we finish 7th or
wouldn't
6th.
Save it if we finish 7th. So it's the risk reward, isn't it? But even then, how many players have we got that we can conceivably change into the team for the FA Cup game?
Well, here's where it gets interesting.
I've come right back.
Well, I've come up with this deal with outfield for the side. I've come up with 14 outfield, so there's 4 you can bring in, effectively from maybe what I think most people, or Slot would say was his best 11. But then you've got, if you want to make serious changes, then you've got to look at Ngamoa, Chiesa and Nyoni coming in. Yeah. So, I mean, do you do that at Wolves?
They've got to be in for the FA Cup game, realistically.
Yeah, would you start Chiesa and Ngamoa?
So you're only making 3 changes potentially, and probably Nyoni as a sub. It's there's just not the players to do it. I mean, are you going to go for Calvin Ramsey at right back at some point? You're not, are you? He's not going to use Calvin Ramsey.
Just actively dislikes the young man, so no.
So it's it's tight, but this could be the thinking behind giving them what they have off last week, 3 days off after the game. Which is,
what
I think,
they did on that, what Curtis and Callister and 1 or 2 others did on those days off should be subject to an inquiry at national level.
I think we basically lost momentum by giving them those days off. We should have had them training each day because they looked leggy coming back.
Yeah, they did.
When it should have been Forest that looked like they have to obviously exert themselves on the Thursday night and flying back. It could be positive, the fact that we've got a game every 3 days. They've got to keep in rhythm now. So it is play, recover.
The gap between the Champions League and Spurs is another big benefit.
It's a good gap. I think it's a big week. Spurs last 16 and then Brighton. I think it's tough, but I think that he can get through it. I think that he's got they have all got a box clever from the bench and acknowledge that the bench is going to be used. Players are going to come off here and there for periods of time, and that's absolutely fine. It's to be encouraged. I think you'll end up in a situation where the lads who have shown for an extended period as Liverpool players. They can be load-bearing. They're going to have to be load-bearing. So I think you're going to see that with the two centre-backs, with Szoboszlai
and Gravenberch.
And with Salah. And people will, I would rest Salah against Wolves in the FA Cup, but I think that what Liverpool could do with is Salah improving a level from what we saw against Forest, returning to what we saw against Brighton, but also the point about Salah, one of the reasons, on top of other reasons why you give him the money, is there is an expectation, and I think you have seen it, to be fair, that he is able to run hard for 95 minutes. I'm still struck by, whilst there's much talk of Salah losing a bit of pace, which I think is true, I'm still struck by he's outpacing Lewis Hall on 70 minutes. He's not outpacing Lewis Hall on 20 minutes, but on 70 minutes, Salah's got more in the tank than Lewis Hall has, and you actually get to see it in a straight foot race, not even anything else. So I think that Liverpool could do with, more than anything, they could do with Salah finding as close as he can to the best version of himself during this run, being looked after during the FA Cup game, but the rest of the time just being a 95-minute man.
Do you know what I noticed at Forest, and I have noticed in recent games as well? It's changed to Mo Salah since his infamous dropping, and his infamous reaction to that is he is working backwards much more than he used to, and I think that led to. I think his manager said, "Mo, I'm taking you off because you work so damn hard." He is. I don't know what the kilometre stats are, but Mohamed Salah looks like he's putting in more kilometres for me than he would have, say, last season, where he was given this special, rightly so, privileged role.
Yeah, maybe, but I think also the building was on fire. So Salah showed last season he was prepared to work backwards when the building was on fire, but the building was on fire against Forest and they all had to chip in, and Salah did. You're right to say he came back and he grafted.
I've noticed him,
but he wasn't able to be an outball immediately afterwards. That he couldn't do both, and I think that's an ongoing problem for them. But I think he can make changes. I would make the changes that you're talking about and envisaging, Rob, in the FA Cup, I would be making. And I think there you do see, for instance, if Kerkez, because he might not have done, I think there's a chance he doesn't. Kerkez doesn't start against Sunderland and does start against Brighton. It's worth pointing that out, and the manager might just sort of keep that, but that pattern. But hypothetically, I think he changes the left back. I think he probably changes the right back from Wolves to Wolves, as it were. I think if Rio doesn't start the league game, and I think it is likely that he doesn't, then he does, whatever I'd do, I think that Ingamoa starts the Wolves FA Cup game. I think Chiesa starts the Wolves FA Cup game. I think you're right to say that Naoni possibly starts the Wolves FA Cup game.
He's sort of the point at which the manager's taking a bit more of a risk. He's got a degree into the red of risk territory.
I would love to know where Dan's is for fitness, because I wouldn't mind if Dan's was available. I wouldn't if you suddenly saw Dan's drop in as a starter for the Wolves FA Cup game. But the thing to point out about the Wolves FA Cup game, and it's really important, and this is why I wouldn't start Salah in the Wolves FA Cup game, is because it can go to extra time and penalties. And I think there's the other reason why Ian will say, well, we want to win the FA Cup. But the other I still have a theory that part of why Paris Saint-Germain beat Liverpool across the 120 minutes last season, including penalties, is because it was easier for Luis Enrique to pick a team where a good result was getting penalties, because they were 1-0 down from the first leg. So what that meant was he was able to say, lads, if we've just won this game by a goal, we're getting extra time, let's prep for extra time. If we get to 120, we're getting penalties, let's prep for penalties. Whereas I think what Slot couldn't do was pick a team with 120 minutes in mind, because it was akin to saying, lads, we might get beat. That's a really hard thing to do as a manager of elite footballers. Lads, we might get beat is actually a really tough at home is a really tough message.
His message was get the first goal and they're dead. Exactly,
which was and it nearly works. It goes the other way. My point here is that we could rest players like Salah, McAllister, maybe Szoboszlai, that you might start Szoboszlai because you think he's a good hard runner for you. I'll include Gakpo, players who you'd fancy coming on against tired legs across 120 minutes into an extra time period, who you'd also back to take a penalty in that environment. And Liverpool have got the option of that in the FA Cup game. So I think it is important to do 6 changes, maybe even find a way to do 7, off the basis of the fact that you're then bringing 5 on 60, 70, 80, and every sub should make you stronger if the game's tight. And that means that you're likelier to go through. So I think it's a really important one to box clever for the manager, and he can have both things. He can have the opportunity to rest some and not have them go all the way, versus the idea also of making the team stronger as the game wears on towards going through in the dying embers.
Okay, should we talk about our rivals over this phase for the Champions League places? As we said at the beginning, that I've deemed, and I think I'm correct in saying that's not rocket science. Man U and Chelsea, without doubt, if we're talking about 4th and 5th place. But Villa's recent drop-off means they've been hauled back in. I think Liverpool are 6 points behind Villa as it stands with... Yeah. We've got to go to Villa, but that represents also an opportunity as well as a threat to reel them in. We'll talk about them in a minute. I want to start off with going through the United games. They have the fortune of only having to worry about league games. So whilst Liverpool play 7, they only play 4. They've got Palace at home, Newcastle away, Villa at home, and Bournemouth away. Chelsea have very different proposition really, and it's only going to get harder if we were extending this list of fixtures for them. They're away at Arsenal the weekend, away at Villa. Wrexham in the FA Cup's a reprieve. They've got the 2 Champions League games with Newcastle at home in the middle, and finish at the Hill Dicko against Everton before the international break. Villa, although they're in some of these fixture lists, in all these fixture lists, they're away at Wolves, home to Chelsea, Europa double-header against someone, Man United away sandwiched in between, and they finish with West Ham, Beth. I mean, as I said at the beginning, again, what's been interesting, instructive lately is there's no such thing as a team in this part of the table which you can rely on, and that includes Liverpool. Mm-hmm. Let's start with United. They've obviously had an uptick under Carrick. They dropped points 2 games ago, didn't they? They won last night as we record against Everton.
Yeah, then they'd drawn against West Ham.
They've drawn against West Ham, which is not a good result. Mm-hmm. It's not a result a form good team gets. We know for some of the same faith this weekend. And against Everton, well, I watched them and they were shite, to be technical about it. So looking at that bank of fixtures, what are you expecting from them?
I mean, I find it hard to see a world where they don't get top 4 Man United. I think that they're not having 2 games in a week is massive. And when they did have 2 games in a week with the West Ham away, they dropped points. I don't think that's any coincidence. I think credit to them and Everton for making Liverpool Forest look like a thriller, because it was absolutely abject, that game of football last night. And I think to be fair to Everton in the second half in particular, I think they were actually much the better team, but they just didn't have the quality going forward. And I think what Manchester United have, which all top teams have, is 2 or 3, 4 players who are real quality in Cunha and Buemo, Bruno Fernandes, and then you've got the likes of Sesko, who's obviously in good goal scoring form. They've got players who can provide moments, and I think that will be enough for them to get in the top 4. I think, but that being said, as much as they've had an uptick in form in terms of results, I think they were poor last night. Although you can say Liverpool were very poor on Sunday, so
yeah.
They were poor against West Ham. Even the win over Fulham, which they win late on, they blow a 2-goal lead and they win it in stoppage time. So it's not like they're necessarily playing like really fantastic swashbuckling football, and therefore you can see a way where they become unstuck in a couple of fixtures. Newcastle away being one, Villa at home, Bournemouth away. They're not easy fixtures, but I still think that the fact that they've got time to prepare, they've got enough quality in the squads. I think they will be out of all of the teams in the mix for Champions League qualification, and I include Villa in this. I think United are probably the surest bet alongside Arsenal and Man City. Okay,
that moves us on to Chelsea. They are actually about to hit a phase of their season where it is shit or bust, because I think we've got 4 of their fixtures here. Neil, you might know. I think if you added another 2 or 3 to this list. They've got, in this run, just to remind you again, they've got Arsenal and Villa both away, Newcastle at home, Everton away. I think if I was to extend this by 2 or 3 more, you'd see Man City and Man United loom into this schedule. Chelsea have to hang in there, in my opinion, in this phase, and they're not in fantastic form as it is.
No, but Rosenior hasn't lost a game, has he?
No, I don't think so.
Currently undefeated with, I think there was a late draw last week.
Yeah, it was the cup game, wasn't there, against Arsenal?
Yeah, they hasn't lost a league game. They've lost in the cup.
They've lost in the cup. He hasn't lost in the league so far.
They surrendered a 2-goal lead against Leeds, was it?
Yeah, so they beat Leeds. They're not looking convincing.
Yeah,
but they're not losing at the moment.
But they haven't faced Arsenal away, Villa away, Newcastle at home, Man City away or home, and Man U. So this plus the Blues. So. The test is coming. This is the test for them. There's a scenario. I was trying to work out their points. And I think it is a 6-game run actually, because I think it's Man U and City which are missing off this list. And I'll just digress to that. I thought the best you could give them, being a senior fan, if you wanted to be about it, is 12 from these 6. I thought 9 was more realistic, and less than 9 is quite possible, and that could leave them in a situation where they're feeling a little desperate.
Yeah, you can see a definite loss against Arsenal. Arsenal are a better team than them at the moment, and the Arsenal that turned up in the second half of the North London derby looked very, very good. They're clicking at the moment, and obviously they've also got their advantage of their Stoke football that they've been playing all season. Villa, it depends what Villa turns up, doesn't it? The whole thing.
You can part that, because that benefits us either way, in a sense. Well, it does.
Yeah, it could do. If it pulls Villa further back into the pack, because at the moment we are 6 points behind Villa, if it pulls Villa further back and us going there as well. Newcastle, again, is another team. It depends who turns up. The only one that you would say there for Chelsea looks a sure bet, even after me predicting that Everton would beat United at the Hill Dicko. They're not winning there, are they? They're not winning at home.
They might have more fortune than they had against United. So I don't.
But they're in a bad run of form at home at the moment. Everton.
Just on Neil's obsession with where things fall, it's worth saying that Chelsea, by virtue of coming in the top 8 of the Champions League, have ended up in a situation where when they have Newcastle at home, Newcastle will have been at home and Chelsea will have been away. This is what I mean about the fortune. There's where Liverpool have got the fortune in the round, and where Chelsea here, it's really, they're on 3 back-to-back aways that will become a 4th away by the time you get to that Champions League first leg. 4 away games in a row, and then they get Newcastle at home, but Newcastle have just played at St James's. Now Newcastle will have had a tough opponent, and it'll have been a big emotional affair, don't get me wrong, but that could have gone the other way. If Newcastle finish in that top 8, Newcastle would then have been away, at which point then they get the same advantage we're referring to with Liverpool and Tottenham. It's
because it's Newcastle at home in the last 16 of the European Cup, so the fans are going to be huge for it.
So they'll be up for it, but also just in general, Newcastle then, as I say, you still make Chelsea favourites for that game. And sides like Newcastle do struggle with the emotion of one big, hopefully what for them would be one big win to then sort of back it up. But that could have just broken the opposite way for Chelsea, and that fixture would then be more straightforward. When I'm referring to us being fortunate, this is what I'm referring to.
Can I just
Chelsea are on 4 consecutive aways and then Newcastle at home.
Just let you digress on Newcastle 1 second. Is one thing that could go in their favour? Newcastle are looking outsiders for the Champions League places at the moment.
Yep.
Sandwiched between 2 massive Champions League games themselves, is it likely that team selection-wise Newcastle then prioritise the Champions League games and maybe make 4 or 5 changes for Chelsea?
I think Newcastle will have to make a couple of changes, but then so will Chelsea. Chelsea are in the same boat. They're between 2 big Champions League games. Liverpool are in the same boat. Tottenham are in the same boat. What's different here, though, is that Newcastle haven't left the country and Chelsea have.
Yeah, that's very valid.
And I don't quite know what the turnaround is because we haven't got the draw yet, and that hasn't bedded in. But there's a chance that's a Wednesday, Saturday. So it can't be Saturday 12:30, but it can be Saturday any other time. It's a chance that Newcastle are Tuesday at home, Chelsea are Wednesday away, and then Newcastle Saturday. There's a chance of that. We don't know at this point, but I'm more using this to frame what I said earlier on about us and how fortunate we've been in this little run. I think that's a horrible run for Chelsea. Who could be bothered with fucking Wrexham? Seriously, all the fuss, all the media, all the bullshit, the extent to which I want Wrexham to get knocked out in the 3rd round of the Cup every year because it'll be horrendous when we get them. But Chelsea have got a big bowl of it in their future off the back of going to Villa Park. They've got to go to Villa Park Wednesday, the Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Chelsea in this run, and then away in Europe. Fuck me. That is horrendous.
I think going back to Neil's point from earlier on about there not being any excuses for Liverpool, I think this is a period more than any other really in the season where Liverpool need to sort of really knuckle down because they had that run, didn't they, over Christmas, where I think you're coming into it, they had a lot of opponents that you felt that they should be beaten, and that there were way too many draws in there, and that's cost them. That's why they're in 6th and not in 4th at the moment. But I think, when you look at how many times these 3 teams, their fixtures are sort of intertwined over the next few weeks, they all sort of play each other, while Liverpool have, fixtures that are winnable. I think there's a real opportunity for Liverpool to capitalise because don't forget Liverpool have a really tough end to the season. I don't see a world where they beat Chelsea at home and both Villa and Manchester United away, and I don't think they want to be in a position where they've got to win all three of those games, particularly if there's then, Champions League semi-finals and a final in the midst. So I think, they want to be in a position where if they drop points away to Villa away from home, or United away from home, it's not the end of the world. So I think this is a really important spell. And I think Chelsea, coming back to United being, for me, the biggest shoe-in to get Champions League, it's because I think Villa, I think they could very well, I think they will be dragged into that scrap for a Champions League place. And I think Chelsea, it could turn toxic for them quite quickly. There was already at the weekend, I saw a picture of people going mad at a picture of Rossini sat having a pint after they dropped points to Burnley. And, some of the fans, and a lot of the fans saying, it's ridiculous to criticise him for that. But I think if they have a few poor results, it could turn quite toxic quite quickly for Chelsea, and it could all unravel. So I think this is the point where Liverpool really need to get themselves together.
I agree. This is the bit where they have to push for home in a sense. I want to move on to the predictions. Just to remind us, Villa do play Chelsea and Man U in this phase, which will make the predictions a bit more complicated and interesting. So let's go and do that. I'm going to start with you, Ian. Where's my big pen? Oh, there's my big pen. I want to start with. We'll do. Where are you? Ah, yes. What points do you think Man United can get from their 4 league games? Palace home, Newcastle away, Villa home, Bournemouth away.
I've got them down. I've got them down for 2 draws here. Newcastle and Bournemouth as draws, which I might be being optimistic. I'd gone 8. I think possibly 10.
10 points for Man U. Okay, it's going to have a knock-on effect to what you say about Villa. Where am I? What do you think about Chelsea?
Chelsea, 8 points.
He's got 8 on Chelsea. Villa.
Villa, 9.
Have you got them losing to Man U somewhere along the line?
I have got Villa losing to Man U. I've got them drawing with Chelsea, drawing with Forest.
Well, hang on, this is not going to work.
West Ham and Wolves.
They've drawn with. How many points you got them getting? 9.
Sorry, I've got them. I've got them drawing with Forest and drawing with United.
They're not playing Forest. You made notes.
They've got Wolves.
I've got the next game for them.
You've got one more game for Villa for some reason.
Wolves. Let's just do Wolves away. What do you think they're going to get?
Wolves away, I think they'll win.
Chelsea at home.
Chelsea's draw.
That's
United
4,
they'll lose. West Ham they'll win. So
that's
it's
7.
Yeah.
Don't know if there's any contradictions in what we just said on Chelsea there or not, but I can't be.
He's got them drawing with Chelsea, so it's fine.
Fine. Beth. Oh, sorry. What's your Liverpool total, E?
My Liverpool total is
from the 4 games.
From the 4 games, because I'd done the 5 originally. 12.
I was about to write it anyway for you.
Stick 15 up for me.
Beth. Let's start with Man U for you.
So I'm going to say they'll get 2 draws and 2 wins, so that is 8.
And if your Chelsea prediction?
7.
And your Villa prediction?
Sorry. This is where I should have done notes like Ian.
It's all right.
Yeah, because mine works so well.
Yeah, Ian was a model pro there.
I think
there might be
9.
Again, I don't know if you're contradicting other scores, but let's go with that. Liverpool.
Out of 4 games, 4 league games, 10.
Okay. Mr. Atkinson. Man U.
7.
Chelsea.
2.
I love it. Villa.
Villa, I will go with 10.
3 of those will be against Chelsea. And Liverpool.
10.
Okay. So it just comes down to me. The tension is palpable. I have done no preparation, so I'll just work out. They will beat Palace. They will draw with Newcastle and Villa. And Bournemouth, I think. I'm going to give them 6. Chelsea, I'm going to say, I think they might well lose against Arsenal, draw with Villa, that's 1. Newcastle draw 2. Everton 3. Have I got them 3 points? Yeah, I'm not far off, Neil. You weren't crazy all along. Villa beat Wolves. I said draw with Chelsea, so that's 1. Draw with Man U is 2. Beat West Ham brings them to 5.
No, you've got them beating Wolves as well, so you've got them on 8.
What have I got? Yeah,
2 draws, 2 wins.
Yeah. Not set. Liverpool, come on, let's be sensible. So, Averages. Elf.
The impossible 11. I love an impossible 11. The one number that you cannot
you
get
can't
of
get.
all the numbers.
All right. So what should we call it?
Call it 10. Like a fucking grown up.
There's no way they're winning the next 4.
12. Good God.
You can't take
Have you
12,
watched
10, 10 and
Liverpool?
12 and turn it into 12.
31. That's 8.
I think Brighton away is where Liverpool will drop points.
Same.
5,
That's what I think.
12, 20.
And I think if they've gone through in Europe and gone through in the FA Cup, and you get there, you just get out of dodge.
7, 34. That's about 8. Right. Well, that's a 12, not a 14. Okay, I'll tell you what. We'll go down to 10 just to satisfy the miserabilists. What that would mean...
That's the Anfield Wrap motto.
It would put Liverpool, I think, a point behind Man United. It would put Liverpool 5 ahead of Chelsea, if this came to pass. Villa's lead of 6 would be down to 4 on Liverpool. So it would the order of play would be Villa 3rd, Man U 4th, Liverpool 5th, Chelsea 6th. But the Reds would be on the march.
And it'd be tightened up a little bit.
Okay,
well... Which is what I think is the likely... I think the likeliest outcome is that at the minute you can throw a blanket of 6 points over them. I think it's possible at the end of this run you can still throw a blanket of 6 points over them, but it's because Chelsea are the back markers. And I think the likeliest outcome from this group of games and the schedule as it pans out is that you're in a situation where I suspect Liverpool and Manchester United might well be closer to Villa by the end of it, but Chelsea might be a little bit out the back.
This has been your overview show.